Hello, this is Pat. In this short topic video, we're going to talk about the scope of the course I teach at the college. That's the Business Intelligence Analytics course. Basically, with all the topics out there around business intelligence, data science, whatever it may happen to be, it gets confusing sometimes as to what the scope of the course would be. So I thought I'd give you a starting point as for some of the topics and a place to go look at some of the buzzwords that are there. A good place to go to get a good start is bizinsite.ca, and I went there today because I needed a place to get a starting point to have this discussion around the scope of the course itself. And again, because of all the buzzwords, great place to go. So datascience.com got bought by Oracle sometime last year. I'll put this link on the site for you. It's a wealth of information to kind of keep you up to date with what's going on, and this particular article is a great place to start, the visual guide. And in here, you'll see even this is what I came here to do, is steal this little chart to give me a starting point. But you can even tell by the tags to the right, each one of these is a link. So it'll give you a real good idea to understand things like predictive modeling, data visualization, artificial intelligence. It'll start to give you a bit more of a get your head around some of these pieces that are out there, and you hear these terms constantly. But for our use today, what I really needed was this chart. I needed a place to start. They do a very good job breaking out each one of these pieces around business case studies all the way through advanced analytics, and I'll let you go through that. Again, like I said, there'll be a link in the post as well. Now, what I need to do, though, is to help you as you're going through to see the areas that you need to focus on. So in their particular chart, where we're going to start is I'm going to start in this area here that I've just circled. Basically, the BI piece, the business analytics piece, that's the area we're going to have the greatest amount of focus as we go into the second semester. Again, building on the first semester, you've already done a business course that involves some preliminary data report, and what that is data prep, or coming in and doing a scoping exercise. So understanding scoping, understanding gap analysis, that type of thing. We'll also reiterate that as we go through some projects this semester. Our biggest focus is going to be around everything else you see inside the circle that I created, including the business intelligence piece right through the business analytics piece. That said, this is a blow up of that particular area with a little bit more detail inside. As you can see, I'm still continuing with there, and I like that approach, the past, present, and future. The only thing that I needed to add that wasn't included is the data tier. So I'm going to look at this as three different pillars. So there's a data pillar, there's a business intelligence pillar, and there's a business analytics pillar. Again, these are really tiers in my eyes, but since I've got them side by side, let's just call them pillars for this demonstration or this discussion. So basically here what I wanted to do is show you the amount of time and focus we'll spend in the course, and I'm modeling that based on what we see in industry. So in our case here, the data piece, which you'll see here, the reason why I included data is this ETL component, this extraction, transformation, and loading component is a big part of creating the information from the data. That's what we use to create these dashboards, scorecards, standard reporting, etc. We'll get to that in a second. The reason I wanted to put these into these pillars is to look at the amount of time we'll spend focused on each one. Obviously, in the industry, the majority of business intelligence and any analytics is performed on RDBMS, or Relational Database Management Systems. That's SQL Server, Oracle, DB2, that type of structure. You're going to use primarily the SQL language and some MDX. MDX is used against cubes, OLAC cubes. And as the person, if you're a data architect or you'll be working with a data architect, we really want you comfortable understanding, even if you're not the data architect creating these data marts, you really need to understand if what you're looking at is a good example of a data structure that's optimized for reporting and analysis, or does it need more work going forward? So we'll probably spend 85-90% of our time still continuing to build on that and focus on it as we did last semester. Now we will take a small little side project to the side for this unstructured data. Ironically, in the industry, you're only going to see this in a very small percent of job offer or job listings. You're going to see this in a small percent of actual implementations that are in production, but they're getting all the buzz now because the vendors who provide solutions around unstructured data are saying it's the way to go. And that's fine. And they are very important, and there's things that we really need to use them. If you think about someone like a Facebook who has relational database type data, but they also have a bunch of pictures. They may have voice, they may have videos. They're going to want to store it in more of an unstructured type database that's optimized for that. So some of the examples around that, you'll hear these buzzwords, the Hadoop, CouchDB, MongoDB. I actually forgot to put IBM Watson in there, and then NoSQL. And these are terms you're going to hear. But again, they're a very small part of the industry where you're going to be working, so we'll probably spend a little bit of time on that, but mostly as a project so you can get comfortable with the unstructured data approach. And if you run into that at work, then you'll be ready to start researching and doing your own self-study to get ready for it. The roles that are typically are stated for this type of work around the data tier: data architect. I've seen the term big data architect. That seems to have appeared with the unstructured data discussions that are out there. Data warehouse architect. The other role on here isn't in the scope of our course, but it's something that you need to be aware of. A database administrator is frequently involved in this tier as well. They're the ones who are basically more in charge of the database systems themselves. So they handle things like backup, security, authentication, access, that type of thing. That second tier, we've kind of hit on that. This is the one you're probably most familiar with. This is the business intelligence piece. And the reporting and analysis component, the top darker block and the orange one at the bottom, that's probably more of a 90-10 split time-wise. In the industry, about 90% of the work is done on the scorecards, reporting analysis, OLAP structures, that type of thing, and visualizations. And a very small amount of time is done around real-time dashboards, flash reports. A good example of a real-time dashboard would be in a call center. There might be a large board up in the back, a large screen, and it shows the call times that are holding versus the service level agreement in which they should be answered. Like so many calls are outside of 2 minutes and 3 minutes that's outside of scope, etc. So those don't tend to come off of relational databases as much. They can, but most of the time those real-time dashboards are off a message bus. They're pretty straightforward, most of the applications that do that type of reporting, and it's something that we'll address, but we won't spend a lot of time on because, again, like I said, it would be a very small part of your work in the business intelligence pillar. Some of the job titles that you'll hear around this area will be the data analyst, business analyst, systems analyst, and BI consultant. So if you see a listing for one of those, the kind of work they're expecting from that job posting would be someone creating reports, someone creating analysis, someone creating cubes, that type of thing. The last one on there is that predictive analytics piece, which is the older terminology that I use, and it tends to encompass both the AI and the machine learning, or I guess machine learning is part of AI, but machine learning, AI, traditional statistical analysis, that type of thing. This is the field that's probably started to see the biggest amount of change, at least since I've been in BI since 2000. Artificial intelligence really didn't exist at that point in the business intelligence analytics spectrum. Now it's starting to become much more popular as we're starting to look at optimizations. As you can see here, two more examples: client retentions, fraud prevention, that type of thing. Used to be is that only started in about 2004, 2005. I started seeing it, at least in where I was within the Cognos Corporation. And data analytics itself was pretty much the crux of it at the time. And it was more forward-looking, forecasting, planning, budgeting, that type of thing. That still continues, but now I would say we're probably getting closer and closer to a 60-40 to even a 50-50 cut in time are in focus within that industry. So we'll probably spend about 50% of our time when we're looking at that pillar in that kind of the data analytics piece, as well as the retention and prevention and fraud, that type of thing. So we'll spend about 50-50 across this pillar. The types of roles that you'll see, again, this can get confusing as to which role goes which one. These are just some of them. I'm sure there's a ton more that I didn't see, but predictive analyst, data scientist, that's probably the one that's got the most buzz currently. A statistician and a data analytics consultant. So what I wanted to do in this video was just basically give us a nice little scope, an overview as we continue into the second semester, this will be the areas we'll focus on, and the reason why we're going to spend the amount of time we're going to spend on each one. I may take a deeper dive into this and talk about how some of this is iterative, each one of these pillars, how we'll relate to each other as we go forward, as we work on some projects together. But for now, that's just a good introduction and a good way to look at the scope behind it. So for those of you that are in the course, I will see you in the class in the fall, in September.